It's time to share my journey into the world of healing, intuition, and spiritual discovery. As I find my place as a healer, psychic, and medium, I'm here to share my experiences and insights in hopes of breaking down barriers between different spiritual perspectives. Whether you're curious about energy work, looking to deepen your understanding, or just exploring your own path, this podcast offers stories, teachings, and connections to help you navigate the space between worlds. I'm Heather, and this is Soulful Wonderings. Are you coming along for the ride? So, in our last episode, I actually told you a story of how my journey got started. I think I explained then that I've been told many times in prayer, meditation, and whatnot to tell my story. So that's what I've started doing. So last time was kind of that first story of how things got started for me. And so today I really wanted to talk about what did that really mean? What exactly got started for me? So I guess maybe the lesson from the story is what I want to talk about now. And again, I mentioned last time how when I went into this class that I was taking, there were things that kind of blew me away. The biggest thing was how open everyone was when they were talking about spiritual things. In my world, that just wasn't normal. You saw it on TV, you saw it in movies, whatever. But for people to just speak openly and, say words like empath and psychic and medium and that kind of thing, again, in my world, that was not what typically happened. So to see people so freely speaking about it was just, I loved it. And the truth is I was kind of all over it. And I wanted to hear all of it. I wanted to know all the things. But looking back on it, especially, and really then I was starting to recognize all this, that I started asking myself, why was this so different for me? Why am I so kind of blown away by that? I mean, I'm an adult, Why is it so odd for me to hear these conversations? And enter what was probably my first introduction to the word conditioning. Heard conditioning a lot in these classes, and that's when I really first started hearing it. And again, maybe other people use the word conditioning a lot. Maybe it's something that's used, in therapy situations and things like that. But for me, that's just not a setting I've been in. It's not something that was terribly normal. So I looked up what is conditioning, and this is according to Google. Conditioning is a form of learning in which either one, a given stimulus or signal becomes increasingly effective in evoking a response, or two, a response occurs with increasing regularity in a well-specified and stable environment. The type of reinforcement used will determine the outcome. So, makes sense to me. Most of us are conditioned in some way, right? I believe sometimes it's with intention. People are wanting, our families or whatnot are wanting us to learn certain things and maybe to act a certain way. And I think other times it's just simply our environment, and that could exist for a multitude of reasons. Perhaps a religious family such as mine, it's always been that way. For generations, they were Christians. And so it was very normal that then in my family, specifically with my mother being the one that came from a Christian environment, that, a lot of times you find women are the ones in the household kind of choosing how the children are raised. I also believe there are times that we do things or react to things just because of who we are, right? It's just who we are inside. I've talked about this before. I'm a Pisces. I tend to do things a certain way, and I think it's just because of who I am. We all have different tendencies and things like that. That's what makes us different, right? But so much of what we do and how we think is based in what many people refer to as conditioning. It's part of our culture, perhaps. It's what we're accustomed to, and it's most likely a bit of a comfort zone. And I've said this before, an old boss said this one time, sometimes we just don't know what we don't know, right? We know what's around us, but if there are things that we've never seen or we've never heard, how are we supposed to know about those things? And to be honest, that's kind of where I was when I came into this class. I think I might have heard things in passing, or like I said, maybe in movies or in some kind of cultural reference or something. But many of the things that were being talked about in this class had never really come up for me, beyond those quick mentions or something like that. It just, I've never been in an environment for it to come up in that way. Now, was that an intentional thing by my family? Maybe. Or maybe it's just what they knew and how they chose to live. And one thing that I really noticed quickly was when I was in the class was just how much I was conditioned to believe a certain thing, especially in terms of religion. And this whole thing, it really opened my eyes, because it began to question or bring up the question of, is what we believe because we truly believe it? Or is it simply what we know based on our environment? Y'all, I work in marketing, and I've worked in marketing for 30 years. And let me tell you something, the more you hear something, the more it becomes ingrained and you start to believe it, whether it's true or not. You'll see the media do this. You'll see advertisers do this. It's all about repetition. It's all about how many touch points are we putting in front of you that you're going to see our product. And now we're in your head. And when you go, oh yeah, I need a car, and you remember that you've been seeing Honda everywhere, so you buy a Honda, or whatever the case may be. But it's what makes you want to buy their product. It's the same thing. It's what we do in our environments. It's what we do in our cultures. It's what we do in our families. So the long and short of it was, I began to question, did I believe the things that I believe because someone else told me to? Could I defend it? Could I defend my belief? Did I know it well enough to defend it? And that actually became a big one for me in particular, because do you really know anything about the thing you're defending? Or are you just basically parroting what someone else has said? Is there more to the story? Is there more that you don't know, that you haven't explored, that you haven't been told? I believe there is more to the story. I believe it's in our best interest to explore. And some will tell you that it's best not to know. I've been told in a church setting in particular that you don't need to know about dark, demonic things, because their excuse was so that you aren't tempted. But here's the thing, you can't ignore those things. They still exist. Just because you don't know about it doesn't make it just go away. It still exists. It's still there. And there are way too many people that just, they didn't want you to know. But what if this learning, what if this exploring is the thing that helps you find a better path? It helps you find the thing that you're more aligned with. What if knowing that, now you can say, okay, I disagree. I'm going to leave the dark stuff alone. I don't need to mess with that. But now I'm better educated on what's out there. Now I can have empathy for other people that aren't like me. I can understand them better, because I'm not coming into a conversation with just speculation. Okay, I can speak a little more intelligently because I actually know about that thing. I understand about that thing. The concept of, if you don't know about it, then you won't be tempted. To me, it just kind of became ridiculous to me. I mean, think about it. When you make something taboo, I think we can all agree that just makes it more tempting, does it not? But I also believe that this exploring, this knowing, can help you defend your stance. Like I said earlier, if you really know what your stance is, what your belief is, why you believe it, not just because someone told you to, but the why, then you can say to someone, no, this is what I believe and this is why I believe it. You can even say, this is why I believe that your stance is wrong for me, or it doesn't align with me. So I've come to believe that kind of stepping out of this conditioning and really exploring it's imperative to our growth, because conditioning can also lead to comfort zones. And let me tell you something, those can be a bitch. Most of us will remain in a place that's comfortable, even if it's shitty, because at least it's known. And the known is better than the unknown, because what if the new thing is worse? So many of us will choose to just say, you know what, I'm just going to stay right here in my shitty comfort zone because at least I know what's going to happen. So all too often, we don't move because of a combination of comfort zone and conditioning. And you know what's even worse is that often we don't even recognize it. We don't even recognize what we're doing. So what I learned in this class and what I've learned along the way after it is that I think we need to take a look at ourselves. We need to look at our beliefs. We need to analyze them. When things come up and we go, you know what, I really want to work on why I react to this thing in that way. Or I'm trying to build this business and I can't figure out why I'm not moving forward. You start to look at your belief systems. You start to look at, well, what's going on? What's the deeper picture here? You look at those beliefs and is it really my belief, or did it come from somewhere else? And if it's not ours, if we go, that's not mine, now we start to ask ourselves, how do I really feel about it then? And also, did our belief change or evolve over time? Is it still evolving? And what do we need to educate ourselves on? Right? And that's the way we start to go, how am I going to change this? Because that's where the big one that came out of this for me was, is it something that I need to heal? Is it a reaction that I'm having? Maybe it's based on a trauma or a fear that I need to release. Or maybe it's just a belief that's so ingrained in me, but I need to change it because it's so ingrained that I'm reacting on a subconscious level. Because conditioning is just, it's so much of our lives. So understanding it and what role it plays in our lives is the first step in getting to know who we really are and changing the things that need to be changed or that we want to change. Then after that often comes the courage to step out of the conditioning, to step out of the comfort, and to do things differently. The next thing that I really learned in my first class was about victim mode. This one was hard for me, I'm not going to lie. It wasn't always directed at me, but I heard it a lot. And I think the thing that always bothered me about it was I knew it was basically intended as an insult, or maybe not an insult, but that jab, that little ass kick to get you moving. But I found for the most part, it wasn't really explained, or wasn't explained well, because I'm going, what do you mean victim mode? I can remember that so long. You keep saying that, but I don't know what that means. And I think if they had said it more to the point, if they had said, okay, that thing you just said, you see how you're blaming someone else, or you're doing this or that. But to me, that's just not how they handled it. They were just a little more vague about it. It was almost kind of a bullying thing. Like I said, they're trying to light that fire under you and give you that kick in the ass to get you to move. And sometimes that just doesn't work for me. Sometimes it does because it pisses me off and I'll prove you wrong. But then other times I just kind of shut down because I'm kind of that opinion, you're just being rude and now I don't care. Or I'll go find it another way, but I'm not going to find it with you, which is one of my conditioning factors that I work on, by the way. But let's look at what victim mode really means and why it's important to consider. So again, this is Google information for some of this. So victim mode refers to a mindset in which a person consistently sees themselves as a victim of circumstances, other people, or life itself. So this way of thinking will often involves blaming external factors for their struggles, feeling powerless to change their situation, and focusing on what's unfair rather than seeking solutions. Y'all, how often this is such a thing that we've all done, right? So here's the thing. There are times when real victimization is happening. Okay. That is very true without a doubt. I want to make myself very clear on that. But when you stay in this quote unquote victim mode, that's when you're stuck. You're staying stuck, and that's going to prevent you from growing and from healing, much less actually reaching, true empowerment. So a victim mentality can often involve things like blaming others, where you believe others are responsible for your pain or for your challenges, right? You can also feel like you have no control over your life or the outcomes of your life. There's often a lot of negativity where you're probably dwelling in the past, maybe dwelling on things you did wrong, maybe expecting that, more bad things are going to happen. That happened, so something else is going to happen. And then there's kind of a big one where you're avoiding accountability, right? We all have to take responsibility for ourselves and our actions. What part did we play in what happened? But then we also have to take action to improve that situation. And we can't wait for others to do that for us. We have to do it ourselves. Now, okay, let's be honest. How many of us have lived there? And y'all, look, if you're watching on YouTube, my hand is high. My hand is high. I have lived in that place more times than I care to admit. It's just easy, isn't it? It's easy to get there. It's easy to say, my boss sucks and therefore my life sucks. And, you're at work all the time. My boss just sucks. So my life just is horrible. Let's be honest. Can your boss really do that? Okay. Do they make decisions for you outside of your life? Does my boss make decisions for me outside of my job? No. Can I change jobs? Can I change the way I react? Have I actually analyzed what role I played in whatever's going on? Right? We have to take a look at that situation honestly and get out of that mindset, get out of that victim mindset. And look, I have no interest in getting political here. That's not what I'm here for. But there's something that I hear a lot lately, and some people are going to position this as political, and I'm not picking on anybody. Okay, hear me. This is just some stuff that I've heard from a few people, not blaming an entire generation, okay? But have you ever noticed that especially a lot of young people, they get angry at other generations? The baby boomers had it so easy. Gen X did whatever. Every generation has had its thing, okay? Every generation has had its issues, has had its challenges, and they've had to figure out how to overcome them. The boomers don't know what it's like to be Gen Z either, right? We all have our thing. However, we can't continue to blame each other and blame other people. We have to decide what we can do to change our lives, right? You can't change others. You may not even be able to make change on a big level, like a national level, right? But you know what you can change? You can change you. You can change how you react. You can listen more. You can speak in ways that promotes conversation, not division. You can choose to just say, you know what? I'm going to walk away when it's necessary for your own peace of mind, right? Sometimes that's what you have to do. For me, and what I've seen, and I've had this happen very recently, is I had to stop and go, okay, let me look at this situation and let me see, why am I really mad? And am I mad at the right thing? And I wasn't. There was a lot of circumstances that were making me angry, and I had to step back and go, okay, what do I need to change? How can I be more accountable? What internal changes do I need to make? I'm going to give you an example. I had someone like this in my life. Okay, they're a narcissist. There's no other way to describe them. That's just what they are. I knew that I couldn't change them. All right, I'm not going to change this person. They are who they are. They are making their choices. I can't change that. And I had them in my life. There was not another option, at least at the time. So I said, okay, what am I going to do? So instead of trying to change them, I changed me. I worked on what are the things that are triggering me. When they say these things, I'm triggered. Why? What do I need to heal internally? How has that trigger is because of a trauma that's in my past, that I'm going to change that belief. I'm going to release that trauma so that I don't react that way anymore, or so that I can learn not to react that way anymore. I learned to take a deep breath before I spoke, because part of what I had healed was I knew the reason she was coming at me was some kind of projection. Okay, it wasn't really about me. And I had to learn that, and I had to go, okay, why is this person reacting this way? Why are they doing this? Again, started healing those parts of me that was giving them power over me. I actually ended up in a place where I kind of ended up feeling sorry for them, because I knew that they needed to control every situation, and that was something they needed to heal. And I can't do that for them, right? I can only change me and how I react. And that's what I did. And I've worked on it, and I continue to work on it with a variety of people that have kind of that same way of acting, right? What I can tell you too is that our relationship has changed exponentially. We get along. We talk. Things have happened between us that angered me. They hurt me. And instead of cowering and being fearful, I said the words. I said them kindly. I said, look, that hurt me. That was hard for me. That bothered me, whatever the situation was. And you know what? They reacted, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do that. I apologize. I hope you'll accept my apology. Y'all, that is a complete 180 from what it was before. And so now not only do we get along, we collaborate very nicely, because we're communicating much more openly. And the truth is, a lot of the ways that they react to me now has changed. And I believe it's because the energy that I'm giving off is kind of changing how they react. Because if I was giving off this negativity and giving off all this defensiveness, then people are going to sense that, and they're going to automatically give that back. But if you're giving them that positivity, and you're giving them, openness and willing to communicate and all of those things, to be honest, it's very difficult for them to continue to fight with you. If you take the fight away, there's nothing left for them to feed on. So, what did I do? I changed me. I changed my reaction. Because the reality is, everyone in your life will not be nice. They won't. Everyone in your life won't like you. We can't just go live in a tree and ignore the world. I mean, if you can and you figured that out, please let me know how you're doing that, because I would be curious. But that's not reality, is it? So, we can't change them. We have to change us. Okay, what's really funny to me was the first time I actually figured this out and realized it, I went, oh my gosh, I get it. I was just totally blaming someone else and being all, but they did this thing to me. And then it just sort of clicked in my brain and went, oh, victim much? That's not, it doesn't matter what they did. What did you do? Yeah. But it was just such a moment of awakening that you just went, oh, okay, get it now. One thing I want to make sure that I'm saying and being very clear about is that we're not talking about people that are being abused here, right? If you are being abused, this is a very different situation. Okay, that's, you are I know a lot of people that have been in that situation don't like being called a victim, but for the definition of it, that you are, and I don't want to insinuate that anyone that is being abused, that there's blame falling on you. Okay, so just want to make sure I was very clear about that. I'm talking about people that are just kind of living in that whole negativity, that whole lack of accountability situation. And I will say, I know for me that kind of figuring this out wasn't necessarily a fast process. But like I said, after that first time, and it clicked in my head, I started to see it everywhere. Not just for myself, but for others. Everywhere I saw it, I would be like, victim. Oh, victim reaction. Oh, look at me having a victim reaction. So it just became so easy to recognize after that. But you do have to want this. Okay. You have to recognize that you need to grow. You have to recognize that this is a step you need to take. And you have to be willing to ask for help if you need it. Sometimes doing the work yourself, that's not always going to work, right? Because if this is the way you see things, sometimes it's hard to change your own belief. Sometimes you need someone else that's able to see a different perspective to go, oh, well, there it is. That's the thing. That's the thing that we need to change. That's the thing that we need to move forward on, or help you see it. You know what I mean? So sometimes you do need help. You need someone to help you kind of get you moving. And then once you are moving and once you've done that, then it's time to do the work, right? It's time to start to change those things. A lot of you'll hear me say shadow work later, but doing that inner work, working on the kind of negative shadow things in your life, that's when all the work really starts. But I tell you, like I said, when I figured it out, it was like floodgates opened. I wanted to do it all and I wanted to do it now. But you know what? That's not how journeys work. It's a process. It's steps. It's not a one and done. You know what? Nobody told me that either. Nobody told me that. I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do this work and that's it. I'm going to be healed. Yeah, no, I was healed, but then I had more healing to do. It's like an onion. What's that movie? Maybe it was The Blind Side. She's like an onion. You have to peel her back one layer at a time. And that tends to be how a journey is. It's very much steps. And each one of those steps moves you forward. And each one of those steps makes you a better person. And it does heal you. And then maybe you find another layer that needs to be healed. And then you feel even better. And the more you're healed, the more you can do for other people. Okay, guys, I feel like that's enough for today. Don't you? It was kind of a lot. But these are things that they really stood out for me as places that this is where my growth started. And when I started seeing these things and hearing these things and having it explained to me and being in those group settings where I was able to recognize it and work on it and all of that, I started seeing the growth happening. I started seeing, at the very least, I started shifting. I started shifting into a different mindset, into a different way of thinking. So those are very, very important to me and ones that I continue to work on every day. And of course, y'all, there's more. The story has continued, and I'm going to continue sharing it here on the podcast and on my website as well. We'll start getting it onto there if you're interested in seeing it there. I also want to say that if you're finding yourself where you need help with this growth, or maybe you just have questions about some of this and you want to talk about it, look, feel free to reach out. You can do that on my website at soulfulwanderings.com, or find me on Facebook or Instagram. And look, we can talk. We can see where you are on your journey. If it's something I can help you with, we can discuss that and what that looks like and how we can do that. Or if we need to, I will be more than happy to help you find someone else that can help get you moving. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and that it has helped you move forward in your journey in some way. Make sure and like and rate and subscribe and, do all those things for our podcast because it really helps us out. Links and other important things you need to know will be in the show notes. And if you have ideas of topics you'd like to hear about or questions you want us to answer, you can drop those on the Soulful Wanderings page on either Facebook or Instagram, or you can drop us an email. Again, check the show notes for all that. If you're interested in theta healing or reading or just more spiritual topics, head over to our website, soulfulwanderings.com. In the meantime, take care of yourself and each other. Until next time.